Hello, podcast listeners. We know podcasts are a great way to catch up on a program that you may have missed on KSJE, and it's provided as a free service of this radio station. But you know, KSJE is now listener-supported, and so while you enjoy this podcast, we hope that you'll also take some time to join KSJE. Become a member today. It's quite easy to do. Just go to our website at ksje.com/support and pick the level of support that best matches your budget. Thanks again for listening. Here's your podcast. Minutes by San Juan Regional Medical Center. The most important ingredients to sustaining health and wellness are the resources and tools that help you live a vibrant and healthy life. At San Juan Regional Medical Center, the goal is to promote health by making sure those resources are available. Find the path to the best life at lifebetterhere.com. San Juan Regional Medical Center. Better is our mission, improving lives through personalized health and care. And back in Studio A this morning with my guest, as I mentioned, from the Aztec Chamber of Commerce and also the Aztec School District. Jenelle Cummins is my guest. Good morning. Welcome back to KSJE.
Good morning, Scott. Thanks for having us.
You bet. You're wearing a couple of hats today, just to be clear, right? So yes. You are the Director of Career and Technical Education with the Aztec School District, but you also serve as a board member for the Aztec Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
So,
which go together a little bit with
sure
some of the work that we do.
Right. So I'll have you wear your chamber hat for a moment, and we'll talk about all things chamber, and then we'll talk about school stuff.
Perfect.
So you've got a lot of things going on. We've been seeing a lot more events happening with the Aztec Chamber, which is exciting to see, a way to support local Aztec businesses.
Yes. So we have about 60 to 70 members right now, Aztec Chamber of Commerce. The past year, we've really revamped our Chamber of Commerce. We restructured. We have a handful of new board members, and we're looking to really just support Aztec businesses. We've done some ribbon cuttings for businesses. We have one today at 5 o'clock for San Juan Barbecue, which is actually right outside of Vanilla Moose.
Okay.
Great.
You had me at barbecue.
Yes,
yeah.
Great barbecue. So if you don't have dinner plans, you should come by and celebrate their ribbon cutting. But we've had a handful of new businesses coming to Aztec, which is very exciting for us.
Very cool. And so with that, again, the mission of the Chamber is to support all businesses, I would think, in Aztec, but hopefully their members too.
Yes, so that is something that we're looking at. We've had even some classes where we've had marketing help for businesses. That's a really big thing that sometimes you as a small business, you don't think of. And so some tips and tricks on that. We're looking at more networking events, and of course our events that we do are for businesses, but also for the community. So we've had the Fall Festival, which has previously been known as Oktoberfest.
Right.
And we really are looking to revamp that. So we have our dates and everything that's posted on our Facebook page, Aztec Chamber of Commerce. So I encourage everyone to follow that just to see what we're doing in Aztec. But also if you're a business in Aztec, join us. We have a lot of really great things we have planned for our businesses.
Very cool. And if folks don't remember, the Fall Festival last October was huge. I mean, I was over there and there were crowds all over the place. It seemed like it was a really big event, a really popular event.
Yes, it was really fun. It was actually during the solar eclipse, so we had that fun going on. But lots of different vendors and booths and food trucks and fun things that we brought to Minium Park, and we have plans to do similar and same things next year. So follow the Aztec Chamber of Commerce on Facebook and see all of our updates. We're updating about new businesses, about our events, and we also are resharing what businesses are putting on their social media. So it really helps grow that platform to really grow business for our businesses in Aztec.
Very true. And another event I know that the Aztec Chamber is really involved with is the Aztec Sparkles event, which is a holiday event in December.
Yes, so we have a parade that we put on, and and that's another really fun thing to do. We do that typically after Farmington's parade. So it's something that's there to celebrate, our Aztec businesses. And of course, Farmington businesses can also come to Aztec. So we welcome that. We have a few Farmington businesses that are also members. So it's a super, super fun thing to do, something for the community to do, but then also just something to get your business's name out there, and everything and anything counts to get your business's name out there.
Very true. Well, that's true. And great to see kind of the two-way support, too, between the businesses and the community then that would support the local businesses.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's great. All right. Anything else about the chamber before you put your school district hat on?
I don't think so. I think I'm ready for the school hat.
Okay, but go to you have a great Facebook page, very active Aztec Chamber of Commerce Facebook page, and that's the way to stay up to date on all things Aztec Chamber, or join the chamber, and you probably will get even more notifications.
Absolutely, and you can reach out to us on that Facebook page, and we'll connect you to membership or answer questions or whatever we can do to help businesses.
Okay, very, very good. All right, we'll put your school hat on now, if you don't mind, and talk about Aztec Schools and your job as a Director of Career and Technical Education and other stuff that's going on. I guess the big news for the entire district has to be the upcoming voting, right? The mail-in election for Aztec, which is part of this bond issue that lost in November by 4 votes. And so the district has decided to do a mail-in ballot to ask the question again, because these funds are just so critical to the district, I guess, is the reason probably why.
Yes, so our 2 mil vote will be going out mail. So if you're a registered voting member in the Aztec district, you'll get that to your mailbox. You won't have to come and get anything special. It'll have dates on it that it's due by, and you'll see things on our social media also promoting to remind folks to vote. And what that mill does, there's a lot of things that we need to operate as a school district, maintenance and facilities. And so this mill is not, I made a joke with Scott earlier, it's not building water slides for our students. It's not building, new big things. It's things like cleaning supplies. It's things like heating and cooling for our students. So we have a lot of older buildings in our Aztec schools, and so it really just helps us keep and maintain that. And it's really important to be able to offer that to our students so they have a safe and healthy environment to go to school.
Right, and that represents that 2 mil is how many millions of dollars? Is it? Do you have an idea what that equates to? Have you done the math?
I don't have the specific numbers.
Significant.
But it is very significant. So if this were not to pass, then we would have to restructure our operating budget essentially to find those things that to cover cleaning supplies for classrooms, to cover fixing our old heating and cooling and things like that. So
Gotcha.
it's a big vote. But I just wanted to explain to folks, listeners, that what exactly is it that they're voting for. I think there's sometimes you vote yes or no based on something you know or you don't know. So I just wanted to let folks know that that is coming out mail out, and you'll see some information from us on our social media, and just consider what your choice might be on that, but that's what we really use those funds for in our school district.
And that mail-in election will be in the month of March, so it's coming next month, and you are legally obligated to use that money as it says you're going to use it in that question, and so folks can read the question and understand what that money is used for. The word water slide is nowhere to be found in the election documents, but that's really important. And as you and I think it's significant. I'm trying to remember if it's 7 figures or not, but I think it is
quite a bit.
A lot of money. And as you mentioned, if that does not go through, and it's dependent on the voters, of course, then the money if you have a bad heating system in one of your schools, you got to replace it, and so that money has to come from somewhere else, which affects other parts of the budget for Aztec Schools, I guess.
Yes, and our goal is not to take that money from the classroom. Even with the grants that I work with, any money that we can put towards the classroom is very important for us because it goes towards our students and their education, and that would be a huge thing we'd have to look at, where we would cut money to buy the cleaning supplies, to buy to project for repairs and things that come. So our goal is not to take money from the classroom. If that weren't to pass, then we would really have to come together as a school district and make a plan that would be a little bit difficult for us to figure out.
Right, and that's an important, I think, distinction to make about something like this and why those funds are important. And again, I always like to point out too that I think your schools, even if you don't have a child going to school, they are public buildings, they are public facilities. You may go to a football game, you might go to a baseball game, soccer match, concert, play. Those are all community buildings, and so these funds help maintain those buildings for community uses as well, not just for students.
Yes, and we want our schools to be looking nice. We feel like in Aztec we do a really good job, and in our maintenance and facilities they do a great job keeping up on our buildings. We want to keep them looking nice. We don't want to have the caving in roofs or things like that, and this really helps us keep that maintained so we don't have the huge maintenance nightmares that come with buildings that get a lot of wear and tear from students and staff in those different athletic and activities events.
Right, very true. Anybody that owns property knows the importance of regular maintenance, right?
Yes.
And then you don't get hopefully any surprises, and so that's an important thing. So that's coming up in March, and this is again for voters, registered voters in the Aztec School District. So that includes folks who live outside of the city limits, because the district extends well beyond the city limits. I know as far as Cedar Hill to the north and Navajo Dam to the east, and so those folks will be getting these mail-in ballots in the mail in the month of March.
Yes.
Okay, for this very important question. So that's coming up, and then meanwhile, back in your office and the area that you look at with career and technical education, you're talking to me a little bit about pathways before we came on the air, and that's another word that we hear a lot, even here at San Juan College, about students that maybe select some pathways, and that's usually career pathways, and from that, different careers and specific things can branch off from that, but really to get students involved in something that they really love or have a passion for, that certainly gets them ready, hopefully, for life after school.
Yes, I love this part of my job because I get to look at the data of what jobs are projected to come, and then I get to look at what funding can we find federally and state funding to fund these programs for our students. So I would say about 99% of our funds for our career pathways actually comes from grants. So what that means is we're funneling that money towards things that towards jobs that are actually going to exist for our students. So we just finished up a process with the state and our region and our northern region to identify which careers will be projected to have increases, and then that's how we direct our funding towards promoting those programs at our high schools.
Sure. And that is somewhat difficult, I would think, too. I mean, no one can really predict the future, and if you can, let me know. But that's really difficult because, as we have seen, as I have seen, even in my lifetime, which is getting longer every minute, there are a lot of jobs that are available today that we wouldn't even think of when I was in high school or even in elementary school or whatever. And so to try to figure out what jobs are coming, what are growing, that's an important thing. And so what did you find out? What did the data show you?
So we work with Department of Workforce, so I can't take credit for all of the data that they put together, but we did listen and make some educated decisions on where we're putting our money towards. Right. So the state identified 3 top industries, and so we're able to apply for funding for those. So we have business, IT, and education, which we could think of growing areas in all of those. Sure. We have programs for those at our school, and we have some collaboration with dual credit with the college for some intro to education classes. Nice, right. And with Aztec Schools, we have a handful of other programs, but one of the programs that I really wanted to highlight that actually didn't make the priority for the state. Didn't make the priority for our region. So we're Region A, which is a cluster of northern schools. Okay. Was arts and AV. And so we picked that in Aztec because there was a projection of 120% increase in jobs in that. Each district can pick their own priority cluster, and we picked that because there's a projection in the northern region specifically of close to 4,000 jobs for possibly film, just different careers in arts. And so we wanted to mention that because I think there's been this, arts is something that you can't necessarily get a career in, but it very much is. If you look at the film industry and you look at you're bringing your production crew and traveling and things like that. Film is very big in New Mexico, and we see it growing. You don't want to bring everybody with you. That you could just hire somebody here in New Mexico, and there's a lot of tax breaks as well for those film producers.
Right. And so that is kind of what you're thinking of, and
Yes.
that makes sense to see kind of what the state is doing, because as you mentioned, there's a lot of state incentives for film projects. And when we say film, I think that includes streaming and television and commercial productions and things along that line. It might be, something big like Jumanji, like we saw here for several weeks, or maybe just a couple of days filming a commercial somewhere. But again, you're right. You don't want to bring all your crew maybe from Southern California when you could hire people locally to do some of the same things. And that's kind of what you're talking about, is training your students to do some of those local jobs.
Absolutely. And if you look at the history of career and technical education, it started way back in the Industrial Revolution when they needed to make machinery, when you had war going on, what were the needs in the industry? Well, now today, in 2024, we're not quite there. We've had a lot of advancement there, but we are there when it comes to technology, when it comes to entertainment and arts. And so we have to think of those funds that are being used, putting them towards what is the new thing now in this generation. So arts is a huge thing, and we are looking to support that. So we have a media production program that we've started at Aztec High School that will be growing, and we'll be working with different folks in the county and with the college just to really give students an idea of what jobs there are. We have Netflix in Albuquerque. We have lots of things that are here. And our goal is to look at that data, and we see that 120% increase. That will keep our students, keep parents, kids here in our community to stay in New Mexico and live here. So that's a priority of ours, is to watch that data and put our resources towards it.
Right. We hear a lot about the brain drain from states like New Mexico and some careers and things like that, and that's one thing that you don't want to avoid, right? And
Absolutely.
so if you see growth here, that may mean that these students who are graduating with these skills can stay here, whether it's Albuquerque or up here in San Juan County, and continue to work in the field that they have a passion for.
Yes, and it doesn't mean that they have to get 4 years of education either. They can come to San Juan, they can do a certificate, they can get the on-the-job training. There are a lot of different options without having to drain your bank account as well, or spend years and years trying to figure out if that's something that you truly want to do. So with that, we have our internship program, which is still going strong in Aztec. We have over 70 students that are in that. We'll have paid out $90,000 in salaries to them over the course of the school year, which is really exciting. But that's another opportunity for them. If they think that they're interested in film, if they think that they're interested in media, we have different partners that we'll be making here in the county that they can go and shadow and see, do I like this? Is this too difficult? Is this tripod too heavy? Things like that they just wouldn't be able to do in staying in the classroom.
Right. And that's a really important thing. And as we've talked before on this program about some of those incentives for students to be able to actually get a little bit of a supplement, if you will, to try out these different careers with these partner businesses, right? And wouldn't work without the businesses helping as well with this.
Yes, absolutely. And we have plenty of partners that we've gotten, and so we thank the community for all the partnerships that we've gotten. We continue to see a lot of growth within internships, and we'll be working with the San Juan County this summer as we have some of those students go over into summer internships. And it's just great because we hear stories of, we love this, or I never want to do this again. And so those are both wins for us, because that helps a student save maybe 4 or 5 years of figuring out that they don't want to do a certain career.
Yeah, no kidding. Very true. And so that's a really important thing. I wanted to ask again about the film jobs and some of the other AV and arts types of jobs. Do you think for students that might be a tough sell to their parents, maybe, to say, hey, mom and dad, I want to get into the movies, and but maybe not maybe in front of the camera, maybe behind the camera, and that's kind of been the push, I think, in New Mexico. If the parents maybe don't see that activity here, or is that something maybe that parents need a little bit of a nudge with, about, that this is a growth area and that maybe there's a lot of things going on that we're not aware of, because it doesn't always hit the media if it's a secret Jumanji type project? I mean, these studios and stars don't want to publicize that they're in town necessarily doing some of these things that are happening kind of behind the scenes. So, that was a long question. I apologize for the length of that question.
No, it's a great question. I think if I was a parent and my kid came home and said I want to work in film, I'd be a little nervous, right? I'm thinking LA or I'm thinking other places. And so you're right. They don't publicize when they're in town because it'd be like Taylor Swift saying, she's coming to New Mexico.
Mob scene, right?
So we definitely want to educate our parents too on sharing that labor market data. And so we'll be doing that. We actually have a pathway fair coming up end of next week. And so that pathway fair will be explaining some of that stuff to our 8th grade students even that are getting ready to pick pathways. But we do have some work to do with our parents to let them know what are those job projections. But the bread and butter really is in going and doing a job shadow. So if they are able to go and do a job shadow, do a reflection on it, and share that with their parents, we always tell our students, share that with your parents so they know what exactly you're doing. That's where they'll see somebody else in our community who's making a great living doing that career. And eventually, we're all not going to be in our career for years and years and years. And so by the time these students come around, it might be something that they consider working alongside, or as folks retire, we have to also think of that too. So it's really the job shadow for us, but it's also letting our families know, here's the data and here's why we picked our programs that we offer at Aztec High School, because it tells us that there's going to be jobs for our students. We don't want to prepare them for marine biology when we don't really have that here in the northern region.
Good point. Very true. And that's an important distinction to make. And I like to remind the community, too, that, again, we're planning to do a program out there. San Juan County recently opened our backlot, right? The film backlot for movie projects and things like that. Again, off the beaten path. You probably wouldn't notice it if you drove by it, which is by design. But it is now available for some of these big productions to come in and use it. And I would think and I would hope that the thought is that there'll be more and more studios, more and more producers that are going to look at it and say, oh, we could locate here, get all these incentives from the state, hire these local workers, and boom, there you go. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
These types of things.
And in our grant funding, we put some funding in there for some career-based field trips. So a lot of time we think field trips happen in elementary school, and that's fun. But we also are looking at middle and high school. And so I'd encourage parents, if you're interested in seeing what those type of career-based field trips are, volunteer and come along with us and see. It might be fun for parents as well to see what's going on in the community. So we'll be doing more of those this next year. We actually had our engineering program go up to Durango to I'm forgetting the Agile Space, I believe it was.
Okay.
And so they looked at what does that look like, and that was in Durango. So we look at the Durango market as well as the Aztec San Juan County market. But it was really great because the students got to look at what they were doing with small mini rockets within engineering, and then they got to go and see what was going on up there in Durango. So it's something that, you as just a community member, you might not be able to just walk in and go and check out what somebody's doing with rockets. But if you want to volunteer and come on those trips, we definitely welcome our parents to volunteer and check things out with us.
Right. Very true. Well, and Durango is close enough to be considered local as well. And so it's all part of the opportunities available for your students, right? Once they graduate with whatever passion they have. So that's very exciting. Just a couple of minutes remaining this morning, Jenelle Cummins. What else are you working on this spring? Are there some grant things that you're trying to put together, or what else you want to share?
Yeah, so we're looking at all of our career pathway areas, our facilities, what supplies our teachers have. We're looking at spending a lot of grant money on computers, just updating computers so our media production engineering students can have computers with graphics cards and things like that. So we'll be dedicating quite a bit of funds towards that, which don't come out of our district funds, which is great because anything that we can save on that end helps us. So we'll be updating some technology, really getting ready for the next school year. We are looking at some textbook adoption as well, so we'll be having some public comment that will be open in March for that, which we'll share on our Aztec Schools Facebook page. And just writing those grants, we're really focusing on collaborating with our regional partners. San Juan College is one of our partners. So what we write in our Perkins and our Next Gen state grant, we want it to flow over to the college so there's equal opportunity there. So just a lot of that budget stuff in the spring is typically what we do and just get ready for next school year, which is crazy to already think that we're getting ready for, end of the summer.
Right. But it'll be here before you know it,
Yes.
and that happens every year. You're right, and I'm glad you mentioned the grants, because you'd mentioned that throughout our conversation this morning. I wanted to point that out, that means that's a lot of money coming into the Aztec schools that aren't coming out of the Aztec school general fund, if you will, I suppose, right? And it's money that you can use for these specific purposes, that you're being awarded this money from these other sources to do some of these special things that you're able to do and offer to your students for their career considerations, and get them involved maybe earlier and hopefully into a career they're going to really excel at.
Absolutely.
Or learn that they're not, and move to something else too.
Absolutely. And we've worked with different partners. So our welding shop, for example, we've really worked the last year and a half to get that up to an industry standard. So we've been working with Airgas. They've been bringing in a lot of our supplies, but they're also we're looking and working with them on what is the industry standard for things. So that's a very expensive program to run. Welding is very, very expensive. So we're very prideful that we're able to offer and put those grant funds towards that. Manufacturing is a huge, huge priority for our region. You look at all of the different things that PESCO has going on, with even the Department of Energy contracts and things that are coming up in jobs there. So we focus a lot on updating that industry equipment so they're not using welders that are from the 80s. We've revamped all those welders, and we continue to, but there's continued needs that those programs have to get them to an industry standard, so students are able to really learn hands-on with that equipment.
Right.
That's safe.
Right. And learn on equipment they're going to see in the workplace, I guess,
Yes.
right? And that's important too. And probably important for employers like PESCO or others to say, oh, you learned on what we're already using in the shop, so you're pretty good to go with
Yes.
maybe a little bit extra training or what have you, but you've really learned those skills on what are the industry standards of equipment.
Absolutely, and we rely on them to help us with some of that education, and so we continue to work on furthering that. But it's at least, our students are knowing the safety. The safety is the biggest thing. If they're around welding torches, they're knowing how, what are the do's and the don'ts. And so we really just look at, if we don't, those type of things are expensive, so we need the grant funds to do that, which we're very thankful that we have that. So this spring we're just working on doing all that grant process, evaluating where our program needs, where have we spent funding, and what needs to be revamped for the next school year, so we can offer those new pathways to new funded pathways to our students who are coming from Kugler from 8th grade. They get to come and experience all of those for the first time, and our continued students as well.
There you go. Very good. Well, Jenelle Cummins, thank you for coming in this morning and talking about all the things that you were involved with in Aztec, from the Aztec Chamber of Commerce to Aztec Schools and the Career and Technical Education. Really appreciate all the information you shared today. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Scott.
You bet. Good to see you. That's Jenelle Cummins from the Aztec School District and the Aztec Chamber of Commerce, my guest this morning right here on KSJE. Did you enjoy that podcast? We hope that you did. And if you did, share it with your friends. And if you really want to keep podcasts like this coming, please support KSJE. You can do it easily online at ksje.com.